Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy So, and it is another Fight Rewind. BKFC 38 is going down, and I got the headliner with me, this man right here, that Nyugen. How are you, my brother?
Thanks for having me, my friend. It's a pleasure. Thank you for giving me the time.
Nah, man, the pleasure's all mine. I'm a big fan of BKFC ever since I went to my first event at the Hard Rock, and now you get a chance to headline BKFC 38 at the Hard Rock. How does that make you feel, man? You excited to fight in front of the home fans?
Absolutely. I've been fighting with BKFC a few fights, and first time I get to headline, and super excited, especially being at the Hard Rock. That's the biggest venue here in Florida. Well, from what I heard, all the VIPs already been sold out.
Awesome.
It's a big event.
Yeah, man, it really is. And you mentioned that you have a lot of experience in BKFC. This is going to be your fifth fight in BKFC. You were a former bantamweight champion in BKFC. Tell me a little bit what you prefer to be at for your weight, because I know you used to fight in boxing as a featherweight, kind of a little bit different from a bantamweight. Which one do you prefer more?
You know, as I get older, you tend to gain some weight. So, I'm being a dad's body now. So, just gaining more fat in my belly. So, my natural weight, I walk around 145. So, I think right now, if I have to go down 135, I'll do it if the money is right and the fight is big enough. But I'm planning to be at 145 right now and fight at 145.
I think that's a smart move, because sometimes when fighters take too much of a weight cut, or the process of going through a weight cut, it could be very draining and can kind of diminish the power that one normally carries. Do you find yourself in that position?
Yes, yes. I mean, that was my biggest mistake fighting in boxing. I used to fight at 126 pounds.
Wow.
And, I always been walking around 145 my whole life. So, cutting all that weight, I wasn't the same fighter. And another thing, I love to eat. I'm the type of fighter who's not very disciplined on the diet. So I love to eat. So like I said, fighting my natural weight, I feel a lot stronger. The guy might be a little bigger, but like I said, I have the power and the skill to match.
Absolutely. And moving in as that natural weight is always a big advantage. I think that in this fight against Daniel Strauss, who's a former Bellator champion himself in the featherweight division, I kind of think that gives you the edge, because he seems like a much bigger guy trying to get down to that weight class.
Yes. He's a two-time Bellator champion. He's 5'8" or 9", so he's he got a few inch rich on me.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't been very active. So
True.
fight.
That's very true. You've been a very active individual in the fighting game. You're 20-3 in boxing, which is an amazing career. You even fought for a WBA title back in 2011, and then you made the switch to BKFC. What kind of sparked that change in mindset for you to say, I'm going from boxing to something a little bit more dangerous in BKFC?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just had those calls in. I mean, give me 1 second. Let me turn those callers off.
Sure, no worries.
It's amazing because I'm using my phone here for the interview and people call on the phone, and
you're busy. You're a very popular man. I've seen it from your Instagram. Everybody loves you, man.
I just try to be real out there. People nowadays, they can sense realness, and I just try to be myself. Try to be myself.
Awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about what made you transition from boxing, because you were very successful, 20-3 record, as right. I said, and then you went into boxing and into BKFC in 2019. What kind of sparked that change for you?
Back in 2009, that was when I was I broke my jaw in that fight. Now that 2009, the last fight in 2009. October 10th of 2009. I beat the guy, but I fought it was an 8-rounder fight.
Wow.
And I broke my jaw in the 6th round. I knocked the guy down and beat the crap out of the guy, but I had a wisdom tooth that was growing sideways. It's called, it's an accident waiting to happen. So when I got hit there very lightly, my jaw broke and I was spitting out blood. So I was trying to hide it. So after that fight, I didn't have a manager, didn't have a promoter, so I was going through 6 months of recovery with a broken jaw, a wire shut, I came down to 122 pounds, 120 pounds. I was walking around. I
Whoa.
nothing for 8 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
So, after that, I just didn't have a manager, didn't have a promoter. My career kind of went sideways because, people thought my career was done. People thought you have a broken jaw, your career is done. My manager dropped me. So I went through some tough time there. And 2 years later, I got offered for a fight, and I took that fight. I lost, and then 2 years later, so within 4 years, I took two of those fights. I got lost back. Two,
Back to back losses.
yes. So in my whole career, I only had 5 fights, 5 boxing fights in the past 13 years. So that's very unheard of.
Right.
So I was just becoming an opponent. When you don't have a promoter, you become an opponent, and you just take last minute calls. And me, I know that I'm a champion caliber. So those big promoters like Top Rank, Golden Boy, and main events, they call me out of the blue and offer me against the top prospect, and I would take those fights for the opportunity. It was decent money on TV, on HBO, on Showtime. So I took those fights, against those prospects, and I came down short. But in 2017, I took a fight against a kid that was 22-0, and I beat him. It was main event on Fox Sport, for Miguel Flores. So they're on the
Right.
S. So I took the opportunity to beat him. He was ranked number 2 in the WBA, World Championship, world ranking. And I thought beating him would put me in a spot for a world title. And after beating him, I just never got a call for another TV fight. And I just was disappointed. I like, what? Maybe I should just go on with something else because the sport of boxing is not for me. And I built a restaurant, and then bare knuckle became legal in 2018. And I reached out
Right.
to Dave and I asked for the opportunity. And he gave me the shot, and I become the world champion.
That was awesome, man. And I think that, sometimes, like you said, as an older fighter, right, you tend to learn how to give more punishment than take punishment. And in the boxing game, it doesn't necessarily happen that way. But fighting in BKFC, I think, allows you that opportunity, not only because you're not making a weight cut to meet some type of weight class, so you get to fight at your own weight, but also it gives you that natural mobility. And I think that one of the biggest keys in bare knuckle fighting is your ability to move your head. And I've seen the last 4 fights that you've had, and in all of them, even in the loss that you took to Luis Palomino, who's the eventual champion, like, you were doing excellent with your head movement, scoring when you had to, and you're not afraid to go to the distance. What was your biggest, let's say, weapon when it comes to BKFC, right, bare knuckle fighting, rather than it would be in boxing?
Like me, I'm the type of fighter that come to please the fans. My whole career,
Mm,
I like to entertain the fan. I come to put on a good show, and I'm not the type of fighter that just hit and run and not to get hit. It's not my style. I'm there to entertain, and I think that's why a lot of fans, love the way that I fight. It could be bad and good in my situation, but that's why a lot of fighter in boxing, they avoid me for that reason, because they know I was gonna come in and to fight. To put on a tough fight, so they know they're gonna have to deal with that. Like
right.
Floyd Mayweather said, to Devin Haney, you can box a certain fighter, but a certain fighter they're gonna close that distance against you. They're gonna force you to fight, and you're gonna have to sit and you have to dog it out with him. And that's the type of fighter
Exactly.
I am. I know how to close a distance. I have enough IQ to close the gap and force you to fight. So that's why But the problem with me, I haven't been very active. I only fought 9 times in the past 13 years, so I'm still a very young and fresh fighter. But I'm mature. You know, uh,
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the freaking head, man. Being as fresh as you are at that age definitely gives you an advantage, in my opinion, because fighters tend to overlook that and say, well, maybe he's over the hill. Maybe he can't withstand the same punishment. Maybe he doesn't have the same power. But everything that I've seen in your fights, and which have always been exciting, everything that I've seen in your fights showcase that you still have it in you. Even against Adel Velasquez, like, I think the coolest part was that of that fight is when you knocked him out. It was literally right in front of the camera, and he got blood all over the camera. And I was like, that's what the fans want to see, man. They want to see sick knockouts and blood being splattered everywhere.
yes, that fight actually got me a lot of notice there. And Adele, he wanted to exchange, and like I said, I that was my first time I ever got knocked down. It
That's
was
right.
a flash knockdown, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna settle down and I'm gonna take this guy out. You could see my seriousness, and sometimes that's what it takes for me. I'm ready to go and ready to seek and destroy. That was in seek and destroy mode there.
I loved it, man. And you know what? You brought up an excellent point. You being knocked down for the first one of the first times in your career, especially in BKFC, it kind of like sparked a light in you to say, "Oh, this guy really wants to go at it. I'm
Right.
gonna give him this thumbs up and say, let's go, buddy." And then you went out there and put him away in impressive fashion, which led you to your next fight against Johnny Bedford, where you beat him by unanimous decision and got your bantamweight title. What is your biggest end goal? I know you're a champ. You said you were a championship caliber fighter. Is that the goal for you to be the bantamweight champion for BKFC?
I already captured that title and from Bedford, and Bedford beat everybody. Johnny Bedford is the king of the 135. He beat the current champion Reggie Burnett twice. And Reggie is currently holding the belt that I
Right.
was stripped off. So, like I said, my goal right now is to win the belt at 145 because I know I can always come down to 135 and take that belt any day. 145 will make me even more, a better fighter if I become a two-divisional world champion. And then if I can achieve that, I would like to go for the 155, which Palomino currently holding. I thought I won my last fight, but like I said, let's have a rematch, and we're gonna be in a better situation this time, and it's gonna be a better fight for the second fight for sure if we do have the rematch.
Absolutely, I agree because the first fight was close. He did take the win by unanimous decision, but I thought it was pretty close. And anytime you get two champions like you guys are in the same squared circle to put it all on the line and show who's the real champion, I think that's just benefits the sport and benefits the fans ultimately, right? I wanted to ask you, there's been an influx of MMA fighters joining BKFC, right? We've seen Ben Rothwell, Diego Sanchez, other guys coming in and making the transition from MMA to BKFC. Daniel Strauss is one of those guys. You said it. He's a two-time Bellator champ. What is he going to have to learn, unfortunately, at the hands of yourself about the difference between an MMA fight and a BKFC, a bare knuckle fight?
Like you said, bare knuckle fight is all striking. It's all, and like I said, I grew up in Hawaii, so there's a lot of bare knuckle fights there, and that's where
Absolutely.
how to, I was basically you could say that I'm a street fighter before I became a fighter. You
Mm,
know, I grew up in a tough neighborhood, and I have to defend myself against bully, and I always stand up to the bullies, and that's the reason why I fought Palomino because he was trying to bully me, but not a subject. So I like I said, bare knuckle, you have to dig deep and go in there and strike it out. Yeah, like I said, like David said, you gotta have some balls in there,
yeah.
and not every fighter want to go through that. Like I said, you gotta want it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be an interesting learning curve for him, right? Because in my opinion, I'm a big fan of fighting sports, and each individual fighting sport has its own little niche, right? And you need to be able to find that niche in order to be not only successful but a showcaser, right? Somebody who can put on a show for the fans and bring more people into the sport. We've talked a lot about fighting, but I always like to get to know people a little bit better than just outside of fighting. What would you say are some of your hobbies, that outside of training and fighting that you like to do in the state of Florida, man?
Oh man, I like I said, I been doing this for a long time, so I love to do a lot of other things. I like playing poker. Poker is one of my favorites. I mean, they consider that a sport, but it's more of a chess game. I'm a
Right.
chess player as well. I was a high school chess champion. I'm really good with math, computer science. So like I said, a lot of people won't even know that I'm like a computer science major. I was doing that in,
Wow.
but I just chose to be a fighter, because if you look at an Asian person, they got to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a computer engineer, and I wanted to break that stereotype, and I chose this route. So it's a tough route, but like I said, I'm getting closer to where I want to be now.
Awesome, man. And you know what? I think there's always that other side of fighters, right? That people don't really get to tap in, man. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I'm really impressed by the fact that you do have a college degree, because that's not a lot of things that people actually strive for and see like, oh, this guy's a fighter and he has a college degree. Like, how rare is that, man? So
Yeah.
kudos to you for that, man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. Like I said, as a fighter, not every fighter is gonna achieve the superstardom and
Right.
corner. status or Mayweather status. So it's one of the toughest, I said, combat sports out there. You know, baseball you can play, basketball you can play, and you can make millions of dollars. But in fighting, you know, that's maybe 5% actually only make the money. So you gotta have something to fall on, because if you don't, like I said, you gotta believe in yourself. It is a long journey. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I still keep that same mindset. Same